Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Flatsoid, Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all, and shout out immediately to the Flat Fellow for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Welcome one and all.
Hey.
Ciao.
Ooh, good morning.
Ciao, Bella. Morning. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not from 3 or 4 sorbins.
Sorbins is a coefficient measurement of sound absorption. No? No evidence of Earth curve?
No.
This is my bad, right? So for those of you just obviously tuning in live as we've only just started, the pre-show was spent talking about coefficients and sound absorption rather than warming up the show for a good flat earth discussion. So it's my fault. I'm really sorry. We will get there. I'll warm them up in the housekeeping. Any evidence of axial rotation? Go on. This will be sound related, I can tell.
But sound acoustics is part of the flat earth.
It's part of my show. And as I'm a YouTuber, first and foremost, I'm going to tell my audience about my experience treating my studio. Other than that, it's not at all related to flat Earth. You could say that diffusion is an entropic effect. So if diffusing sound, no, let's not. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No 15 degrees observed of the Earth-based variety movement.
You wouldn't expect to see it either, so definitely not.
Hang on. So they say it's there, but we don't expect to see it or feel it or measure it.
No, they say it's there, and they say we wouldn't expect to see it.
That's what I'm saying. They say. No,
that's not what you're saying. That's what they're saying.
It's all faith-based.
Okay, let's start that again. Put it in context, Nathan.
They are saying we should see Earth turning underneath at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, and as we turn underneath, we observe this thing called Coriolis effect. That would be things that have a path that's actual, but that path isn't what you observe. You observe a not actual path because you're turning underneath. They claim, that's globe believers claim, Earth turns underneath, stuff not attached, to cause 15 degrees an hour deflection. They also tell us that we wouldn't expect to see any drift. So they simultaneously tell us we should see drift, and we wouldn't expect to see drift. We have no claims that require reference frames at all. As flat earthers, they claim we should, and we should not expect to see drift. Hey, Arwen.
Yeah. Hey, Arwen.
Hello.
Yeah, so they're saying there's movement, but no drift.
No, the movement you observe is a not actual movement, and that is the drift. But they also tell us we shouldn't see that drift. That drift at 15 degrees now that Earth would give us if it was turning underneath, they tell us we wouldn't expect to see that. Because obviously we're claiming it. I mean, we're not, they are, but they tell us we wouldn't expect to see the thing they claim. As weird as that is.
Yeah, but Neil deGrasse Tyson said the football did it, and they're arguing with their own high priest.
Yes, that's correct. The globe Earth claim, the rhetoric for a globe, is that Earth turns underneath, things not attached, at 15 degrees an hour. Of course, the cause of that deflection observed from the ground, called Coriolis effect, is Earth turning underneath stuff that's not attached, which would mean Earth was turning underneath this aeroplane. So from the ground, merely an effect of it seeming to curve when it isn't. But for the plane, it would shorten flight times when travelling west. Charlotte, North Carolina, travelling to LA would take an hour and a half instead of 4.5 hours, because Earth would be turning underneath, as per their claim, of a 15 degrees an hour drift observable from the ground. That means Earth is turning underneath planes then. And it isn't. When we say Earth isn't turning underneath planes, they tell us we wouldn't expect to see drift. So they simultaneously tell us we have 15 degrees an hour drift and we wouldn't expect to see it. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I don't have we established if it's
over
tangible or
there.
not first?
Exactly. Is it tangible?
All right. Yeah, Nathan Thompson even brought forth that argument pretty much yesterday against Aaron Ra, or in his premiere. I think it was a Friday or something.
I hate that dude.
Oh my God. But that whole thing was a wreck. It was a train wreck. Like Aaron Ra just got to talk for like 10 minutes, nonstop at home nonsense sophistry that literally had to do with anything. It was just a bunch of garbage. And Nathan just did not interrupt him a single time, but he had all kinds of faces because you could see it was like the stress, man. Chat was going nuts. And then it was his turn, and Aaron literally rumpused after 3 seconds over his entire 5 minutes, and the moderator didn't even do anything to stop it.
Does that surprise you?
Oh, no, that's reasonable, Arwin. That would be a neutral platform.
Ugh.
And that's where they want you to go, Nathan.
Yeah, and then Aaron Ra left, and then the moderator basically took up his point. He started to defend the globe. It's just like, what?
Of course.
You're neutral?
Because that's a neutral.
Really?
That's how a neutral platform should be. You know, neutral in favour of the globe.
Yeah, sure.
And that's why they want you to go to one of those, Nathan.
Of course, because it's neutral, and they can talk over every single claim I make. And obviously, it would be unreasonable for me to interrupt them even a single time when they spurt bullshit for 99% of their talk. That's totally unreasonable. But it would be completely reasonable for them to spew their religious belief over the top of anything that I say. And that would be a neutral platform, according to them.
Well, I don't think that's really neutral. I think you should rather call it intellectually neutralized. I think that would be a better way to say it.
Who's this Aaron Ra?
He's a demon.
He looks like... You ever seen Big Trouble in Little China?
Oh, that's an old movie, isn't it?
Imagine one of
The 80s,
the bearded
90s.
Japanese guys with the long beard and long hair. Kind of like that, but a bit more grisly.
He's a
No.
Satanist.
I've seen a picture of him. I just don't know who he is or his background. That's what I mean.
He looks like a wizard goblin, okay?
I think he made his money in crochet.
No, but I find it funny that you host a flat earth debate show and they ask you to come somewhere else when they could just come right here.
I don't care what they want.
Well-
They seem to be...
Well-
I know you're speaking on their behalf, Neil, but they think, incorrectly, that I care what they want. I don't. But if they want to debate me, which they clearly do in most instances, they can. So they want to debate me, and then they want to offer up their excuses why they wouldn't want to debate me. Sounds familiar. Weren't we just talking about something just like this a moment ago?
Neil, you see, this is the same thing. I mean, same with Fight Flat Earth. He still wants me to debate again, even though I demolished him. I'm telling him where to get me. He can get me, but yeah, he doesn't want to come here. He's too scared. Like, why must I go and support his channel further if he's just a dishonest prick?
Yeah, for those interested, by the way, about Nathan Thompson's debate against Aaron Ra, I put the link in the chat to Nathan's video about that. It is 2 hours long, though, so watch after the debates.
Yeah, thank you very much for sticking it. So Armin's links just appeared in the chat. Please go to Nathan Thompson's channel and subscribe today. Nathan Thompson is ace.
Well, I got into a big argument
sure.
with Fight the Flat Earth because he claims when he came on this show, you, Nathan, did not give him a chance to speak. That's why he started acting the way he did to give his audience some entertainment. And I find that to be not true.
Whatever. As I say, I couldn't care less what his audience got. I'm not concerned, subscribed, or watch what he presents to his audience, so that doesn't concern me. But he obviously thinks you're concerned with that because you've been told it, correct?
Correct. I just don't like the. I was there for that show. You did give him a chance to speak. He did not answer the questions.
Well, he started with circular reasoning begging the question on everything. And since Nathan is aware of these fallacies, he says, wait a minute, you can't start that way. You can't start with something you haven't proved yet. You have to start with something that's proven. So can you start again? Maybe rephrase your sentence. And he with it.
But Neil, do they ever actually answer anything? Do they actually ever bring up evidence of anything?
No, that's a negative.
Exactly.
And if he would have said slappy one more time, I would have jumped through the line and strangled the bastard.
Well, they only speak up if you ask them to explain their proofs to you. If you then have questions about those proofs, that's when they stop.
Yeah, because then they could chant.
Yeah, but even with Flatzoid on that debate, which I'd listened to, he did so much begging the question. Oh, we measured this from there and we got this and blah, blah, blah. He's already in orbit. He's already in space. He's already accepted the whole heliocentric crap.
And the problem is we just don't trust them. That's the real problem, you know?
Yeah, right.
Trust
That's all you need.
Evidence, right?
Got no update on my Jackie Orr scenario, so last email I got from her was her saying that she needs to establish my trust. Shit, I didn't actually give her a name, did I? Pretend I didn't say that. Shit.
You said you're not going to. And it's recorded now.
Damn, this is live as well. Oh well. I hadn't actually divulged that person's name up until that point, but hopefully no one picked up on it. Nevertheless, that particular individual wants to gain my trust. You know, she's been asked for a hypothesis a couple of times. She wants to know how she can get my trust, though.
Maybe she'll be able to answer me what's a closed system.
I doubt it. Explaining.
Well, it's simple.
Explaining the
Would
presuppositions.
she answer the teacup question?
It's simple, Flatzoid. What does A mean in the English language? Closed. Closed has a definition, and a system has a definition. So it's pretty simple what a closed system is.
So it has an actual boundary that doesn't let matter in or out.
We might as well have that.
Yeah, it's closed.
We might as well have that housekeeping question. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No.
No.
You can't have gas without a container. How about that? It's not even, you can't have gas. There's no gas without a container.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, if they assert the universe is an isolated system, and we are an open system inside that isolated system, entropy would increase and we would not have any gas pressure. Full stop.
Yeah, as Arwin says, you wouldn't have gas at all. How would you have gas at all to have gas pressure? So you could say gas and the pressure it creates. You've got to have gas to have the pressure it creates. Therefore, you can't have gas without a container. Arwin's more concise version is still strictly true.
Yeah, but
I don't understand. Every demonstration that they do, they start with a container.
Of course.
Every demonstration.
Of course. Go on, Arwin.
Flatzoid, they'd say your full stop means something else other than full stop.
Yeah, they would debate the semantics of punctuation, you're right. Did you have something to add to that, Arwin, or was that it?
Well, just that every experiment ever performed in the world always starts with a container. The one you're in. It's that simple.
Every related experiment.
Every experiment ever performed was in a container.
That's deep.
Yeah. Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What is it?
I don't know.
I don't know. There's just
Can we do this one? It's
appearance,
over there.
apparent distance. That's it. No actual. It just moves with you. So if things move with you, do they then have actual positions? Do you have any demonstration out there of objects that move with you without moving that are objects?
No.
It's like the horizon.
Right now, and I can't even look directly at it. It's so powerful.
Arwin's describing a non-Coriolis force, and he's trying to weasel this double speak into some sort of coherent sentence. But no,
What?
Arwin.
No, you got me all wrong. I didn't. I'm trying to say if it's just that physical objects have these logical physical laws tied into them, how you even recognize them. And yeah, the sun, the most blatant, bright, apparent thing up there, you can't pinpoint it into an exact location. And there is no object that I know in the world that does that.
I got one.
Go on.
It's similar to the apparent horizon. It's where the sky seems to meet the sea, and the closer you get to it, the further it keeps going.
Well, it's apparent.
That's interesting.
Well, it's comparable because it has a not actual location. Both have a not actual. That's all apparent means. So yes, the horizon is by definition apparent, and so is the sun. So it has an apparent location. So by contrast, or by comparison, it would be, I get what you're saying.
If I may respond, I think Tenten actually made a really good point comparing it to the horizon. Why? Because in my holographic conception of how do we see it, what are we seeing, I've always said it's at the edge of our vision. Well, since then, I figured out optics better and realized that there effectively is an edge of vision. Where is this? It's where the atmosphere, the preponderance of it just blurs up the light, reaching your eye so much that everything becomes a color soup and you cannot distinguish anything anymore, no matter how the size. And I think that at that point, that's really where the apparent backdrop of the globe of the heavens really is projected within our sight. It is where the material can no longer reflect the physical realm, as it were.
How do you know it's not a reflective object?
He doesn't. He's just speculating, but fine. He did say that.
How does this work with diffraction then?
Well, this is diffraction. That's what he's describing. He's describing the diffraction limit, unless he's talking about weather.
No, refraction limit.
No, diffraction.
Diffraction limit applies to objects on Earth. I'm talking about celestials here.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I can't really apply that then, can I? Because I don't know if they're physical or not.
No, I was talking about the refraction limit. I don't even know if that's an official terminology, but that's my description of the ultimate limit to sight because of the preponderance of air clarity, eventually making light unable to continue in a consistent fashion.
Yeah, you're convoluting two different things. You're mixing up two different things.
Yes. Well, I'm trying not to. The refraction limit, the blur up of sight, and the diffraction limit, what causes the bottom-up obstruction effect and, perspective.
No. The diffraction limit isn't always anything disappearing from bottom up. That's not what the diffraction limit is. It's the interference point. It's the point where you can't resolve 2 pixels. So it would become 1 pixel and blur. Well, that could be a distant building where you can't distinguish the bricks anymore. It just looks like a blob with a roof that's roughly roof-shaped. But can you distinguish any of the bricks in the building? No, not at the distance, because they're beyond... The detail is beyond the diffraction limit. 2 pixels become 1, you can no longer distinguish the detail. Now, based on your angle of view into the distance, there is an overall diffraction limit. That would be what you call the horizon, if you've got a clear enough day. So you still have all of the other effects that can bring the horizon closer when you're describing the diffraction limit. So when Life is Short went through this, because originally I was just like, well, that's just what the horizon is. It's just the diffraction limit. No, it isn't. And he gave an example that was done by Red Pill Philosophy. And he said this is probably the closest example you'll get where Red Pill Philosophy, saying, look, it's so flat you can see it all. And Life is Short was quick to say, well, no, there is a diffraction limit. But because it's so clear and there's so little difference between air and water temperature, that you can see a crystal clear image and actually see the point where things are diffracting, rather than the horizon, in this example, being closer because of interference and stuff just blurring up because you can't see the crap through the crap in the air. So in that example, he could actually qualify where the diffraction, it was miles away. It's when at the point where everyone's saying, look, there's nothing in the way. Well, yeah, but you've still got stuff disappearing into the distance, right? That's never going to go away. But it's only calculable on the crystal clear days because it's the last thing that will limit your view.
Yeah, good explanation. I've experienced that here in Southern California and I never, until coming to the show, realized it's because of these factors like the air temperature, the water temperature being closer together. So there are days you can just see Catalina as like ready to grab you, and there's days you can barely see it.
Sure, but the most crystal clear image is still limited by the aperture, and that is giving you your diffraction limit. Now that might be the resolution, i.e. how clear things are, the brick being able to be distinguished in the building, as opposed to it disappearing against the deck because of the limited angle. Now they're both the same effect, but you can induce it much quicker against the deck because you limit the angle sooner. That simple. That doesn't mean that things in the distance will reach and breach the angular resolution limit before the horizon. Absolutely. You can't see a human hair beyond about 6 foot. Well, why can't you? Well, because it's beyond the diffraction limit. Your resolution isn't high enough to see the hair. Is it on the horizon? No, it could be on a table in front of you and still disappear about 6 foot away. That's still the angular resolution limit. 2 pixels becoming 1 pixel, becoming a blur that you can't distinguish anymore. In other words, lack of resolution.
So is that where we get the phrase, your hair off on your calculations?
No.
At that point?
No. That's a mathematical qualification.
It should be. Sounds good.
Yeah, that's a mathematical qualifier. Anyway, let's move on. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, it's begging the question.
Absolutely not.
That it? No. Okay, fine. Moving on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, before you move on, first you got to prove we're a sphere and all the things that go with that before you can even get me to consider what's in the middle of this sphere.
Yeah. Presupposed to be molten, presupposed to be at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, presupposed to be self-perpetuating. Yeah, they're all big problems, you're right.
All right.
So, gravity.
What was that next one?
Gravity. Any scientific evidence thereof?
No. It's the same there. They don't even know how to define it anymore. In fact, the definition is opposite of each other. It's a force in one baller's viewpoint, and the other one says no, it's an effect.
I'm sorry, but if you build a concept on top of a concept and try and reify it into reality, you're definitely not going to get science for it. You're just going to get zealotry.
Yeah, Weber lies. What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative.
QE turns up later. Hold on one sec. If QE turns up later, remind me to run Father of a Stolen Child's hypothesis by him. It came up vaguely towards the end of one of the shows, but I did promise him I'd actually run it by QE if he's next time he's here. So if someone can remind me if it does pop in towards the end of the show.
That's if he's not grumpus.
He was all right on Saturday.
All right. Well, he had the weekend to shop for food. If you could give us a contrast, Nathan, between an actual hypothesis in the scientific method where someone is putting out what they think is the possible cause of what they're observing in nature versus the one within the fields you described, and what's the difference?
Well, we'll start with the latter. So creating a mathematical idea of how things work will leave you 10 to the minus whatever it is off and isn't science, it isn't validating cause. So the just so stories and mathematics that come from the fields as above will always be lacking scientific validity. So what is scientific validity, to answer the first part of your question? Well, step one, observe natural phenomena. That would be something occurring that hasn't been created by man. In nature, a phenomenon, something happening, to study. So you see something occurring, you come across a hot spring with boiling water in it, and you want to know what caused that. What is the cause of that to happen? Then you have to formulate a hypothesis. That would be to assume what causes it. That would be your independent variable, the thing which you will not only have as your presumed cause, it also must be real and must be capable of variation by you, the researcher. So that's your DV and IV covered. That's your hypothesis basically done. Dependent variable, boiling water. Independent variable will say the amount of acid that's held within the water, and any control variables that need to be held constant. So we'll hold the atmospheric pressure constant by doing this at sea level, and then you formulate the null, which is to say if A, that would be acid content in my hypothesis, not B, not boiling water. So you've got two sides to the hypothesis. If A, then B. That would be called an alternative hypothesis. In my example, if acid content, then boiling water. And a null. If acid content, not boiling water. So at the end of the hypothesis construction, you can go forward to actually validate precisely that. Now, I'm not going to go into the experiment detailing what you need to do, because that's not what we're asking for. All we're asking for from those fields, astronomy, cosmology, and astrophysics, is a valid hypothesis. Doesn't have to be validated, just valid to begin with. My hypothesis in this example, if we didn't already know the cause of boiling water, would be valid. That would be to say that if I went through to experiment, one or other of those things would be proven. Either acid content causes the boiling water, or acid content does not cause the boiling water. One or other will be proven true. Null or alternative upon experiment. Was there anything else you wanted?
Well, it seems like after that clear definition of the whole thing, that the first thing you said is, you said you're going to start from where they go. So they start with mathematics, a concept, versus something actually happening in nature. That's the disqualifier.
Yeah.
Well, that's it then. Impossible.
Yeah, so it's like me starting with a hypothesis and mistakenly asserting it as a validated cause of the effect. So in this example, if I say, right, well, I've got a hypothesis, and that's the explanation. The hypothesis is the explanation. Forget about the null. I'm only going to formulate the alternative, and that would be to say that acid causes water to boil. Now I'm going to give you the maths. I'm going to show how it divides into it. And therefore, qualifying it with numbers as the cause. And if they work out on paper, that means it's valid, right? Well, no, not until you actually vary the amount of acid content in the water to see if it boils or not. And after the fact, if you establish that it does cause it to boil, so you add acid and it does boil, then you can say how much acid, at what rate, but the quantitative effect is irrelevant if you don't know the qualitative effect that it does actually cause it. So in this example, if I did go through an experiment, I'd add acid and it wouldn't boil. Well, that would be a bit of a problem. On the other hand,
let's say,
go on.
Well, yeah, let me give you two examples. Just play along with this a little bit more. So I look up to the night sky. I say, wow, I see a star or stars. And then I get my P900 or telescope, and I see a little bit better. That's one example. And I would say I'm doing that on this earth, looking up in the sky, and this is what I observe. It looks natural. Seems natural. And then the other one is I look up, and then I start making mathematical equations beyond that point that I can't verify. And then going to those mathematical equations to describe reality, which I haven't been able to verify through the scientific method. Is that good enough there?
Close enough. Quick shout out to Al Junkie, who says, heliocentric model greater than anagram. I think it just means is an anagram. Okay, let's try that again. Heliocentric model is an anagram for lone comedic Hitler. Shout out to Pete Shea. Thank you for the super chat, Al Junkie. Junkie.
Right. So, guys, just great. I'm pissed off. None of your fault, though. Because somebody, I know very well that likes to communicate with me in the background told me that basically something I've been explaining for 2 years consistently wrong is wrong. And he even told me that he told me 2 years ago, but he didn't correct me like every time I did it wrong though. So thanks. Because I constantly seem to mix up refraction and diffraction. And like I'm very fucking pissed off right now.
You talking about me?
I hate optics. I fucking hate it. It
about me?
scrambles my fucking brain. It sickens me. I constantly get this shit wrong since I was 5.
I wouldn't worry about it.
You're
I'm
human.
worried about it.
We're on a live show here.
You're not
You're
planning
human,
on
don't
becoming
worry
I
about
an
don't fucking care. I'm sick of it.
optometrist or an optician or anything like that, are you?
Well, apparently my conception was completely flipped around. Refraction does not cause a blur up of sight. Apparently it's diffraction, and refraction is actually what causes the optical slant. But that got wrong in my head for over 2 years.
Owen, potato,
That's
tomato.
fucking great.
It's easily done.
Heck,
Don't worry
Arwen,
about it.
I've been
Don't worry
wrong in
about
my
it.
head for 5 years on something.
Me for 55.
I really wouldn't concern yourself too much, Arwen.
Why? I'm only a teacher.
Yeah, but if you get these words the wrong way around occasionally, what's the worst that can happen?
So
Conspiracy
every
cats.
single time in my written charts that
Yeah.
I've been using for 2 years.
As I say,
Thanks.
Arwen, even if you get it right and do understand it, you'll still have some wanker like conspiracy cats claiming you don't, won't you? So who
I
cares?
don't give a shit about what he says. Those retards.
Only
I don't
the
give a
best
shit
teachers
about
keep
that. I'm
learning.
actually trying to create real knowledge here from scratch. And then when it turns out I got something fundamentally wrong for 2 years in a row, that pisses me the fuck off.
No.
All right,
no,
Nathan. I think he's asking for a flogging. Just give it to him so it's over.
Okay, you mixed up refraction and diffraction. I don't think it matters though. It's not contextually important. for
Owen
this
takes
discussion.
things serious, though. Come on. He's trying to do
So-
something.
so-
Give him a break.
Owen,
You
Can you
over
just-
how the world works turns out to be completely mixed up. That's all.
all you do now is move on.
Just semantics. It's just a bit of
Definitely
words.
mistake and move on.
No, it's mechanics, unfortunately. It's not just semantics because I saw the concepts as what they were and I mixed it up.
You're right.
Got it wrong.
I think you should be locked up permanently.
Yeah, let's do that.
Society needs sparing from this, Arwen. You're right.
Just kick me already.
It's okay, Arwen. Don't worry. We've all made mistakes.
You could do what the Globers do
I don't know
and
why I did
continue
that
to
when
double
I did
down
this
and
show.
lie on it, or you could do what
Just
you're doing
don't
now
like
and
it.
move on and actually be honest and have integrity.
Right, so great. Gonna have to unetch that railroad that's been forming in my head for the last 2 years. Now I've gotta scratch that all out again. It's very
Well,
painful
that's good.
process.
You'll gain more subscribers because they'll know you're honest. Good.
Al
Do it.
Junkie sent another super chat. He says, shout out to Arwen for calming me down.
Very good, Al Joe.
Well, shout out to Al Junkie because that did actually calm me down. 'Cause
Jeez.
it's quite stressful dealing with a stressed
I'll
Arwen.
be alright. It's just
You've got a contagion with your stress, Arwen. It seems to permeate everybody.
well, the optical slant is caused by refraction. The line of sight limit is caused by diffraction, apparently. So
Owen,
that's
I no
it.
longer covet your
That's it.
mind.
Now I just have to etch that in the right order in my mind now for like the next 5 years.
Okie dokie. Good to hear. Getting lots of comments from the chat telling you to keep your blood pressure down.
I keep thinking of that phrase. I see, said the blind man.
Throwing me completely now, Arwen. Did we cover all the housekeeping questions?
Yeah, very good. Hey, let's talk about begging the question. Why is it that every Glober that comes here always starts with circular reasoning and begging the question?
They've been indoctrinated and trained to automatically assume that that particular model is automatically right without making the person who's doing it aware that it's just a philosophy. So if you automatically just assume that your world out view is correct, you're going to assert it as proof positive at the start of your assertion. Well, it obviously, because we're standing on a sphere already, that's why the sun does what it does. Well, that's obviously, like you say, begging the question or circular reasoning. But if that's your world outlook and you're basically a zealot, not appreciating that you're in a cult, then you're going to assault the views of the cult without even, missing a breath.
Well,
yeah, I
let
understand
me,
that, but don't they want to prove it? Like I always hear Rumpus say that. Oh, we already know it. We know we're on a sphere, but somewhere, don't they want to prove it?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Neil,
saying.
This is where I'm trying to take Nathan here, if I may. So in sales, because I've been in sales, and Nathan, you've been in sales. So in sales, when you meet a customer who's doesn't like salespeople or doesn't like anything being sold to him, he's under the impression that he can just go walk in and buy things, and that's the only way he wants to buy things. I ran into those people a lot. So for me, it was like I need to overcome his fear of a salesperson trying to screw him. So now if I use that in contrast, the baller comes here. He already knows he's coming to a flat earth discussion. And he already knows we're going to say begging the question, circular reasoning. So he should, if he's interested the way Neil just said, prove their side. He needs to overcome that hurdle. In sales, you overcome it and you gain a customer. Ballers come here, they can't overcome it and they keep losing. That's the contrast I'm trying to make.
No,
They try to overcome themselves.
Well, they try and figure out a way of not doing it so they won't get called on it. So we discussed the flat Earth earlier when he came here, and he wouldn't acknowledge the tangent plane. So I asked him if the geodesic surveys were using a tangent plane. He refused to acknowledge that question until later he's describing measuring a dip angle. Well, that's the acquisition of the tangent part in tangent plane. Now, obfuscation of that point meant that he realises instinctively, if nothing else, that he's going to beg the question. And when it's asked, are you going to be begging the question with the tangent plane, better to avoid the question, and then later claim that you didn't get an opportunity to talk, even though you've been asked a direct question about whether or not you're going to beg the question, and you've ignored it and avoided it. Now, moving on, later down the line, there is going to be a point where you're going to justify your mathematical begging the question fallacy by utilising a horizon that's physical as a tangent point, which is precisely what he did. Well, that's a cognitive problem that they're going to try to avoid by debating tactics rather than actually having a winning side. Well, we're on the winning side. Earth is obviously and observably flat. We do have a horizon that's a vanishing point. It's not a sphere edge. They, on that side of the globe belief, that is, will acknowledge that. Quite openly and willingly now. They can't not. We've debunked it as a sphere edge. But that's going to leave them in a position where they have to beg the question and want to avoid it as a debating tactic rather than because they've got some winning thing up their sleeve. I gave up on that 5 years ago. There's not going to be something magical come to fruition for the globers. We're not on a globe. It's just a philosophy. Shout out to Flat Earth Data. Take 1.22 shots of whiskey, Arwin. Reference to.
No thanks.
Let me just point out the relevance. So it's obviously reference. It's reference to the diffraction limit 1.22. It's also a reference to the geometric horizon at 1.22 square root of the observer's height. So you've got a juxtaposition between a mathematical calculation that used to calculate the diffraction limit. That's the Rayleigh criterion, and then you've got the exact same number being used to assert Earth curve where they remove all aspects of perspective. Just to summarise, Earth curve is perspective. They've just taken that effect, kept the values for the targets the same size, so this mountain in this picture has a feet and inches value attributable to it. Now it's very small in the picture, but it'll still have the same feet and inches value. Now in curve maths, that means you've removed all aspects of perspective. Calculable with the Rayleigh criterion with the exact same number, right? Thank you very much indeed for the Super Chat, Flat Earth Data. Really appreciate your support and the context of your Super Chat also.
So, now that I've got my shit cleared up with the diffraction limit being the line of sight limit and the celestial supposedly being pretty much bound to that, it's even more mind-boggling to me now how we could ever receive the light from fiery balls hundreds of billions of light years away when that light is still bound to the diffraction limit, which
exactly.
is quite limited
great.
and small.
Yeah, hold on, everyone, hold on.
Limit.
Hold on, I just want to carry on that conversation. Now, I see why Arwin wanted to get that straight. Now we can pretend that little stress session with Arwin didn't happen because we can continue that conversation. Exactly, Arwin. So, based on their physical assumption bias, there's a certain limit to how far you can see things, right? And that's based on the diffraction limit. So these celestial bodies at a given distance, how the hell are we seeing them? Right? Well,
Right.
they've got a solution for that, though, haven't they? It's not Ptolemy. I forget. I can never remember the bloody guy's name who raised this
You mean the
objection.
Beetlejuice effect?
Say again?
They oversized it.
Yeah, that's why you end up
Right,
with
but-
Yeah, that's why you
But
end up with
is it-
Beetlejuice and the like. You've got stars that are massively oversized because they looked at it and went, well, no, for us to see them at the distances we've extrapolated from Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion and an assumption that Venus is the same size as Earth with an assumed R value, well, then these bodies would be enormous. Cue the rolling footage of the CERN, followed by Beetlejuice, followed by whatever, Sigma 2-948 with a massive size comparison. Earth is 1 pixel. The sun is taking up 1/10 of the screen. Beetlejuice is taking up 1/5 of the screen. In other words, they've just reverse engineered in that objection based on what you're pointing out now with the current knowledge of diffraction that you have attained in the last 20 seconds, that they wouldn't be able to be seen unless they make them massive. So are they massive? Well, yeah, in the heliocentric model, they've made them massive. Can someone in the chat tell me who it was that... it was Brahe. It was Tycho Brahe. There you go.
Okay, still makes not a lot of sense though, because then they would be very big. Just imagine what it would be like to be actually a little bit closer to that. It's just giant freaking blinding light everywhere. There can be no eyes. They would instantly be burned out by its brightness.
If
Because
my memory,
of the sheer distance that all of that has to take, it really becomes more absurd than it just being apparently very big angular-wise. You know?
But are you saying because its size, it's going to be brighter?
Well, if that brightness reaches all the way to here, just imagine how bright it would be over there. It's just insane. It doesn't make intuitive sense, you know? Like, why would it not radiate out to everything else and affect all other spectacles we see? It's just, why is all these beams of light all coming from that far away from this specific star to reach us and then look like this perfectly dotted white light in a black? That makes no damn sense if it was actually this massive giant bright light bulb shining in all directions. It makes no freaking sense whatsoever.
hey, Nathan,
Yes.
this reminds me of the book Kings Dethroned by Gerard Hickson. And on page 3 here, such was the extraordinary conclusion arrived by Hipparchus, and that statement of his lies at the root of astronomy and has led its advocates into an amazing series of blunders from that day to this. The whole future of the science of astronomy was affected by Hipparchus when he said, quote unquote, the heavenly bodies are infinitely distant. And then I jump to page 4 at the bottom, and I'll finish here. It says here, having accepted the theories of Hipparchus in the bulk, it was but natural that Ptolemy should fail to discover that error that I've pointed out. Even though even had it been otherwise, it would have been as difficult for him to make a triangulation to the stars in the 2nd century AD as it had been for the inventor of triangulation himself 300 years earlier. However, it is a fact that he allowed the theory that the heavenly bodies are infinitely distant to remain unquestioned. And that was an error of omission, which was ultimately to bring about the downfall of his own Ptolemaic system of astronomy. So a little background.
Thank you very much. I often get that confused with the Brahe backstory. But yes, excellent. Thank you for filling us in. I asked my kid, my eldest, now she's a bit more verbally competent. I ask her, I'm like, what do you think the sun is? She says, I don't know. And when I push her, I'm like, well, what do you think it is? She says, it's hot. That's what she thinks it is, hot.
That's
Well, it's a
great.
very truthful answer.
I just love that.
I know what it is. It's something amazing that God made.
Yeah. It's just nice to
Well,
hear a kid
I
say
can
it.
tell you one thing.
Go on.
I can tell you one thing. It never came from a violation of the law of thermodynamics from a Big Bang.
No, it's not a burning ball of gas in a sky vacuum, that's for damn sure.
That's for sure. And I can tell you another thing. It's the one thing we can measure 15-degree movement every hour is the sun.
Indeed. Of course, that's claimed to be because Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, i.e. that's a Coriolis claim.
Oh, really? So if Earth's turning underneath the sun to cause the 15-degree, then the Earth turning underneath a drone, a helicopter, and an airplane should do the same thing.
Yeah, like Neil deGrasse Tyson asserts, in line with the heliocentric rhetoric, that from the stands the ball deflected through the goal, not because it actually deflected, but because Earth turned underneath.
So as soon as you leave the ground, you are separating yourself from Earth, correct?
According to them, that is what Coriolis actually is. A rotating frame of reference turning underneath things that aren't attached for them to seem to drift as you turn underneath them. That is what Coriolis is, and they claim Earth as a turning reference frame has that effect.
Unattached, not attached.
Do they realize how screwed they are?
No.
No, they don't. Half of them don't even know what Coriolis effect even is when they're claiming it.
They just
You
hear
could
somewhere.
thank that to the books and the dictionaries and all the meanings that, if you look up Coriolis, you get. It does make it quite confusing.
It's on purpose, Neil. Here's what they've done. They know what it is, meaning the orchestration part of the puppets who are moved by the strings by the puppeteer. But when it goes to explaining it, when they explain it properly, it destroys the whole concept of what they're saying. So they give different descriptions for Coriolis. I can't tell you how many times I've studied Coriolis since getting into this field with the ballers, that there's so many descriptions of what it is that violates what it actually is. So they conflate it on purpose to make it confusing.
Yeah, but they just literally parrot off of one person's stupidity and thinks that, how can I say, it's reality. And then when they have to explain it, they can't explain it because they're just parroting someone. They're just parroting it from someone else. It's like broken telephone to the extreme.
Yeah, but when QE says, what is the causes? What's the cause of Coriolis? You can't parrot that because it's a definite question as to what causes it. And Nathan just answered it. The Earth moving underneath unattached items.
How did it get the name Coriolis?
Don't know. What I do know is this stream.
I think I do.
This stream has got the least live viewers this show has had in ages. Less than 100 people watching live is absolutely god-awful. I've no idea why. Anybody got any idea why there's so few live viewers? It's normally close to
Maybe
200.
it's a Monday.
Yeah, but normally there's close to 200 people watching. There's like half as many people watching as there is normally. That's weird.
They're devastated from the election, but early 20th century, named after Gaspard Coriolis, 1792 to 1843, a French engineer.
Oh, well, there you go.
And it says, an effect whereby a mass moving in a rotating system experiences a force, the Coriolis force, acting perpendicular to the direction of motion and to the axis of rotation. On the Earth, the effect tends to deflect moving objects to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in the southern. And is important in the formation of cyclonic weather systems. So that's convoluted.
Sorry, what hemisphere? What's that?
That's
Begging the question.
Begging the question that the Earth is a sphere.
Do they know how cyclones actually form? It's got nothing to do with anything on Earth spin.
High and low
Aren't those
pressure
actual spin
systems.
directions.
I was going to say that's incorrect. So they're describing an actual force and an actual deflection. That's just simply wrong.
Yes, yes. And it says in physics, the Coriolis force is an inertial or fictitious force that acts on objects that are in motion within a frame of reference that rotates with respect to an inertial frame. In a reference frame with clockwise rotation, the force acts to the left of the motion of the object.
You can see I've just
I
showed for
told
the
ya.
audience why my stats don't match. So I've got 103 viewers logged, and people in the audience telling me they've got 155 logged, which is more realistic. It's still a bit low, but okay, maybe it's just my stat. It's on YouTube. I don't get it. It's their studio. Why is their data 50% out?
I bet there's more than that too, Nathan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've got 144 watching on mine saying.
Very interesting. I'm really sorry to break up the conversation with admin, but
No, it's okay. It's just that. The way Neil read that, I've read that about Gaspard, a force that's not a force, but they describe it as a force. I mean, you see how convoluted they make it? I mean, it's very simple what it is. They're claiming the Earth is turning at 15 degrees. It's simple.
yeah, but it isn't.
I know. That's why they convolute it.
If it did, we'd have drift.
Exactly. So they have to stick in there about a clockwise or counterclockwise storm. You know, it's nonsense. It's total nonsense. Weather systems are because of high and low pressure systems, and there's plenty. I mean, what was it? Flatzoid showed the video of that hurricane a week and a half ago, and it was turning both ways.
Arwin, can you do me a favour just before we come to the end of this show? So can you go and Google or go to the Wikipedia entry for Coriolis effect and share your screen? Can you do that for me, Arwin? Are you there? He's run away. He's gone somewhere. Is anybody...
Let me read this quick thing for you. The Coriolis effect says that anytime you're rotating, whether it's on a playground toy or your home planet, objects moving in a straight line will appear to curve.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's correct.
That one.
Yeah. So half of them are wrong. Go to the Met Office and they'll describe how the actual force of Coriolis makes the rotation of the hurricane. Well, that's wrong. It's a not actual deflection only appearing to happen because you turn underneath. So the second description you gave is accurate. The first was not. But that's what you get. So what I was going to get Arwin to do if he was around, he's obviously disappeared, was bring up the Coriolis effect. Do this yourself. Type in... Hold on, Arwin. Type in Coriolis effect and bring up what comes up on Wiki. Now, it's a tale of two descriptions. On the left-hand side of Wiki, you've got a 10-paragraph minimum description with double-speak contradictions throughout. On the right-hand side of Wiki, you've got a GIF with two sentences describing a ball travelling straight but being observed on a roundabout, turning underneath and seeming to curve. It gives the description in about two sentences. Arwin's done it. He was there. My bad, Arwin. I was bad-mouthing you. So, right. Here we go. Stop. Perfect. So, what you've got is the left-hand side being a convoluted cluster screw of nonsense. Do you want to just scroll down a little bit, Arwin, to show how much nonsense there is? It's endless. Keep scrolling. It's just endless nonsense. Keep going. There we go. Right, now go back up to the top and just go to the right-hand side. So just click on the GIF if you would, Arwin. Scroll back up to the top.
I was muted, sorry. I was saying, like, this is only, in my estimation, like 1/8 or 1/7 up until history. So everything I scrolled through is just 1/8.
Okay. Yeah. I appreciate there's a lot more, but I just need to make my point, Arwin. Can you just see the GIF on the right hand side? If you click it, it'll pop it out. Perfect. Now this, can you click on the ... so it makes it longer?
The ...
Yeah, at the bottom of the more details. In big blue. Oh.
Well, right. This?
Oh, it's made it smaller. Okay.
I can zoom in.
No, I need the text underneath. Don't worry about it, Arwin.
Sorry.
Let me just, before... Arwin, please stop jumping around. Just stop on one thing, please. Thank you. Right. This GIF describes Coriolis effect. So on the top, you have got the view from the inertial reference frame. Now that is the actual trajectory of this projectile. That is a straight line. That is the actual path. Now underneath that ball, if it's a ball, we have a roundabout turning. Now if you are sat on the roundabout watching the ball, you are observing the ball from the second picture, the one underneath. So that turning reference frame is the non-inertial turning reference frame. And that gives you an apparent curved path of a ball that's travelling straight. I don't know if you can go back once, Arwin, and just read out precisely what it says under the GIF in the first bit of Wiki. So if you just read out what it says underneath it. There you go. Scroll down. There we go. Perfect. If you can just read those. There. If you can read that for me.
Right. In the initial frame of reference, upper part of the picture, the black ball moves in a straight line. However, the observer, red dot, who is standing in the rotating non-inertial frame of reference, lower part of the picture, sees the object as following a curved path due to the Coriolis and centrifugal forces present in this frame.
Perfect. So that 2-sentence description is Coriolis effect. That is it. That's the... Oh, what's going on? Is that you, Arwin, or Neil? Is that
Not
you?
me.
Neil?
Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry.
This is Coriolis effect. The right-hand side, those 2 sentences or however many sentences, that is it. That is the sum total of Coriolis effect. You observing something seem to curve because you're turning underneath. All of the rest of the nonsense contradicts itself with actual forces causing things to actually have a curved path and hurricanes moving in different southern and northern hemispheres that are assumed. All wrong. And that's what you get on Wiki. But this part of Wiki is just an actual description of you turning underneath something, watching it seem to drift. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!